Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the April 23rd Palm Springs Planning Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is a report of posting of the agenda.
The agenda was posted 4 p.m. Friday, April 18th, in accordance with state and local procedures.
Thank you, Alex. We have minutes for the meeting of March 12th, 2003. Are there any additions or corrections?
I'd move approval.
Second.
Was motion by Mr. Caffrey, and the approval was by Ms. Morantz.
Second.
Excuse me, the second. I'm getting ahead here. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. We have on our agenda minutes for the meeting of March 26th and April 9th, but they're not ready yet, so they'll show up again on a next agenda. Next is public comments. Anybody wishing to address the Commission on Planning Issues in the City of Palm Springs may do so at this time. If you are here on an agenda item, we would ask that you hold your comments until that item is called, but if you prefer, you may speak now. Seeing none, we'll close public comments. We'll jump down on our agenda to miscellaneous item number 7, the sign program application by John Westman for sign program amendment for the sign program at the Plaza del Sol located at 1555 South Palm Canyon Drive.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
To abstain on that item.
Thank you, Ms. Morantz.
Within 500 feet of my office.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, this is a fairly minor and straightforward sign program amendment. One of the things that we're going to propose as we redo some of our ordinances is to give staff authority to work on sign programs so they don't always have to come back to the commission. This is something we would have bounced by design review and probably stamped off on it over the counter, but the ordinance says sign programs go to the Planning Commission. With that quick overview, Gabriel will give you a review of the plans, and I may have some additional comments.
Very good. Thank you. Gabriel?
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. This is just an amendment to a prior approval back in December 19th, 01. We have basically a foam. The location is at the Plaza del Sol at 1555 South Palm Canyon Drive. And this had been previously approved. The dimensions of the signs are not changing. The big difference between prior approval and today's is that they're having a white neon around the lettering. And these are for the shops running along South Palm Canyon Drive. And we did take this to design review on Monday, and their recommendation was that it looked good, but the neon wiring and the guts of it should be on the inside of the sign, so it won't be, so people can see it. Any questions?
Very good. Thanks, Mr. Diaz. Doug, you had some further comments?
Nope, Gabriel covered everything. Thank you.
Very good.
I guess that's right.
Are there any questions, comments?
Yes, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Doug, weren't we trying to get away from sign programs that require everything in the same color?
Well, the way this actually works, if you look at the fine print on the second page, while this shows you just one typical, each of those tenant spaces have differing accent colors. Some are powder blue, some are using the roof color, and the idea is each sign will mimic those trim colors. So you will have a difference in colors. I think it'll be very subtle. The way they rendered this up, it makes it look very regimented, and that's not the intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Conrad?
Doug, as this presents an opportunity for me to hammer home the point that I made a couple weeks ago, this building could use some remediation to places where old signs appeared, and this would be a lovely opportunity for me to attach that condition of approval.
Good one.
Particularly the frontage facing east on the Steinmart box portion is particularly egregious.
Okay. We will, if the commission adds that, we'll make sure it's done.
And with that, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Conrad, second by Mr. Grinch. And the condition that you discussed is a part of your
It's
motion.
part of my motion, absolutely.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0 with one abstention. And if we could invite Ms. Morantz back to join us.
No.
Thank you, Dave. All right, the next item on the agenda is number 8, case 5.0857, application by Jason Kelleher, Eddie Sinque, and Michael Sinque for a 5-year time extension of a conditional use permit to operate a cocktail lounge and nightclub as primary use in the C1 zone, the Toucan's Tiki Lounge located at 2100 North Palm Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item before you was originally approved by the Planning Commission in January of 2001. The council approved the resolution of convenience and necessity in February of 2001, and the applicant applied for the time extension prior to the expiration of the use permit. The item before you, the nightclub itself is about 3,000 square feet, located at the northwest corner of North Palm Canyon Drive and Via Escuela. There's been a couple of issues in terms of noise. The applicant is going to be working with staff in order to address a means of blocking and redirecting some of the sound that emanates from the outdoor smoking area so that it will be moving back towards the parking lot. We've got a couple of ideas. We're still working on some last-minute items in terms of that, but it should be as simple as extending a wing wall around the front of the outdoor balcony area. The applicant understands the necessity of doing that and has some good ideas, and he kind of is looking at a way to tie it into the tiki motif architecturally so it just doesn't appear as kind of a bland wing wall. So we're working on those, the kind of aesthetic impact of the noise barrier. In addition, there's been an issue with some parking and parking concerns in relationship to the parking south of the site on Via Escuela. The city engineer posted signs on the site which were originally interpreted to mean that you could not park in the empty lot. However, upon discussion with the engineer, the intent of the signage was to eliminate cars parking directly on the edge of the right-of-way. We had a situation evolve where there was parking lot in the parking in the parking lot, parking on the street frontage directly on the south side, and then on the north side of the street but south side of the property. And there was also parking on the south side of the street on the edge of the pavement. So what was happening is the street was being narrowed by parking on both sides, and it was reducing the right-of-way or travel width. By posting these signs, the city engineer has been working with the applicant to direct an educational campaign at the patrons of the establishment so that there will be no parking on the south side of the road in the right-of-way. By doing this, we're allowing the traffic to move freely on Via Escuela. The applicant is also working with the property owners of the parcel to the south to maybe make some more permanent parking arrangements in that area. With that, we would be recommending approval of an extension for 5 years of this use on the site. They would come back in the year 2008.
Very good. Thank you, Alex. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address us on this matter? Sure, feel free to come forward. And please give us your name, and before you leave, sign the clipboard.
I'm Jason Kelleher, one of the owners of Toucan's, and just want to say thank you. It's been a wonderful opportunity to finally get to do business in the city, and have had a wonderful experience with both the city and the patrons and the police department and the engineer. Things, since the signs have been posted, patrons have been moving further off Via Escuela as the street was not fully developed. It's 2 lanes on Indian Canyon and 1 lane on Palm Canyon. The street was never finally developed. And so by the signs, it's helped the patrons not to park in what would have been the 2nd lane. Now they are further in on the lot, and they stay away from the traffic problems that were occurring. It's worked out fine. We posted signs. We'll try to post them to make them even more clear. It seems to be helping at this point. And even on busy weekends like the last couple of months have been bringing into town with the holidays and different major events that occur in the season. It seems to be working really well, and so we've basically just want to say thank you, and hopefully we'll be saying thank you again when you say yes.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Is anybody else who would like to speak on this? All right, commissioners, questions, comments? John?
Just move approval.
Well, I just have
John.
just a question, just before we, I mean, I'm happy to see it doing well, but just before we rush ahead with approval, just a couple thoughts that occurred to me is, I had some concerns about a nightclub in this location when the application was made, and it seems to have worked out well, but I think one reason that it has worked out as well as it has is because there's not a lot of development around this location. And in 5 years, 5 years is a pretty long time, and if there were things that were developed around this property, I think it's possible there could be a problem. I'm just wondering if 5 years is maybe too long. So that's my only thought. Otherwise, I'm delighted that the business is doing well, and the complaints seem to be, to this point, minimal or under control. But I'm just wondering if we want to go out 5 years on this. That's my only thought.
Does staff have a response?
Yes, we debated 2 to 5 years at staff level, and I think we came to the conclusion that first and foremost, this business has to comply with our codes and ordinances. So if they have a residential project that springs up just south of them, they're going to be constrained because they're probably going to have a lot of nighttime activity, and we'll have to make adjustments with their operation. And that's the reality of a nightclub that goes into an area that's underdeveloped, and they've been able to fit so far. So if we do have new development that comes in, and particularly something that's residential or lodging, where you do have a concern about nighttime activity, things of that nature, we're going to have to work with Toucans to adjust their program. Just south of this property, we've had a couple of look-sees by people that might want to develop. One was a housing project. And if you had residences right across the street, I assure you there would be a different level of evaluation. That would occur with or without a 2 or a 5 year time extension. The only difference would be, in theory, at the end of a time frame, you could deny the time extension and have the bar closed. But if it becomes a chronic problem because of changing in the neighborhood, they're going to have to adjust, or we might have to bring it back to the commission for a review. We just felt that they've done a really good job. They've built a good clientele. If a new project comes in, it's probably a couple of years easy before it's occupied. If they started today, we don't have anybody actually working on plans in the neighborhood, and that's why 5 years came up. And we made adjustments, as recently as a few months ago relative to the parking, and that we had a noise complaint, and immediately the police responded to that, and we started working with them. They've been good to work with, and I'm confident that over 5 years that the current business owners, if something happened, would understand they have to make some adjustments as their neighborhood changes.
Yes.
Any further questions? Ms. Conrad?
I have the exact same concern as Mr. Schoenberger, and we have been approached with several complaints, and I know the city council has also heard those, and I'm interested to hear from the applicant, maybe publicly, what kind of mitigation measures, particularly for their current residential neighbors, because I know the complaints that I heard in public hearing were about not being able to sleep with their windows open because the doors were open and that sort of thing. So when I first read this, I was inclined to go for a shorter time period, because we don't know that this will be the property owner the whole time. I know that they've been cooperative, but 5 years seems quite a long time, and it's not a big deal to come back in 2 or 3 years to ask again and to be able to have an opportunity to adjust it. So I don't know if the applicant
If
wants
the
to
property
address
owner would
it.
like to come forward, or?
Jason Kelleher again. There was a complaint. There was one particular resident that had lived near the property during the whole first year we had been there, and it was, I think, 6 months ago that she was calling. Her work schedule had changed, and she had to get up earlier in the morning, and there were a couple evenings where the noise was awakening her. It was mostly conversational from the people in the back, and there was a door at the front. There's a smaller patio that sometimes when it was opened, it was emitting more noise, and so we have adjusted that. Now what we do is we lock that door at 10 o'clock every night just to eliminate that problem. We've added a secondary security person. Actually, there's a third person that works as a floater throughout the week, and they go out into the parking lot. They make sure that there's no people having loud conversations of any kind, that when they're, because those people, on your way to your car, sometimes you're talking and you tend to be louder. When you're moving towards the property, the particular resident was across Palm Canyon, and we took decibel levels, hired a company, went out and did things. I mean, it was clear. We spoke with the police. They said, it's not really a noise problem that we're aware of, but we have to respond to this. And there were times when the doors were opening, so we said, let's lock the door. That solves the problem. Bringing on the second security person, say, hey, if people are talking to, keep your conversation down and head on out, which, that helps in a lot of different varieties. We've been looking at doing the wall, which is really where that sound sometimes, I think, is what's happening. It's the conversation level of patrons on the back patio that are the smoking area generally. And we're looking at some possibility of landscaping, maybe hay bales, maybe a wall, something of some consequence that will help to just muffle some of that sound. There's another resident now who's a president of the commission. I speak with her regularly. She's not a patron of the club. Most of the residents around the club are regular patrons. She is not very friendly, and just we're aware that we're working with her, and we're really just we're a part of a community, part of a neighborhood. We're not there to cause a problem, and the neighbors know that, and including the one that was complaining. She chose to move when her lease was up. We've actually, the president of the association let us know that she was actually grateful for the business because she's able to sell one of the condos for a higher property value, because there were people that wanted to live next to this club. They didn't want to have to drive. They literally wanted to live next to Toucans. And I've been told by many realtors who come in the same thing, that they're able to sell property close to the club because people want to live near it. It's easier to get to. And it's a deliberate choice. People are wanting to move next to Toucans, which is nice to hear. But at the same time, we look at ourselves as a resident of the neighborhood. We live blocks away from the club ourselves. And so it's our neighborhood as well. And we want to take care of it and respect it. So we've worked with the neighbors and with the neighborhood, with the city, with the police, engineering, and would continue to do so. We also aren't looking to sell it or move anywhere. It's kind of a baby. We're proud of it. Put a lot of work into it. Took quite a few years to get it to happen, and we're not going anywhere at this point.
Very good. Thanks for your response. I just want to say, I'm pretty comfortable with the 5 years. I know that this is a typical conditional use permit. It doesn't necessarily have a sunset clause in it. It's because we have provisions in there. If they violate our ordinances, then that in and of itself can cause a revocation of the permit. But since it's a bar and it was a new area branching, and that's why we did it originally, an extension of 5 years, to my way of thinking, seems comfortable. Jerry, you had a comment?
Yeah, I guess I'm happy to see anybody successful in North Palm Canyon, so I've got to applaud you for that, because that's a rough place to develop to be successful. I think you've worked well with the staff, and I've got to say, I don't have a problem with the 5 years, looking at what's happened, particularly that end of town. The growth has been down south, so, I think with that, did you already get the motion up?
Well, I was going to, and the reason was because we made a pretty tight CUP here when we originally did this, and it's a living document. It continues. It doesn't matter what the time limit is on the bar. So with that, I move approval.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Caffrey, and that was Mr. Grinch that seconded? Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good luck. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just an interesting side, this morning I was watching one of the national news shows, and they had a little segment on the problems in New York City with the new smoking ordinances, where you can't smoke inside. The smokers have all moved outside onto the sidewalks, and they now have a challenge in front of them, and that is the conversational noise is too loud in the neighborhoods because they have neighborhood pubs and bars. The non-smokers don't like the smoke that wafts up into the upper units from the sidewalks. And so they're in a dilemma, and I think we've all run into that. Every establishment in town has tried to figure out how do we deal with the indoor-outdoor relationship. But I thought it was interesting and appropriate timing that it was on TV this morning.
Very good. It'll be a challenge for all the businesses across the country. All right, next item on the agenda, we're still not 2 o'clock yet, so we'll go on to number 9, determination, request for planning commission determination to allow the alteration of a non-conforming single-family residence in established setback areas located at 466 Potencio Road. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman and respected members of the commission, this is a request for a determination by the commission in regards to a single-family home at 466 Potencio. It's an R1A zoning designation, and I want to point out, first of all, that this was a legally constructed residence in 1952, permitted, etc. Of course, then we didn't have our setback requirements that we have now. Consequently, the way this house is positioned on this very irregular lot is very close. Well, I don't even want to say very close. You have 7 feet here at a rear property line, and you have 8.5 feet at a side property line in the existing structure. The owner is requesting an alteration that doesn't extend the footprint of the building to enclose part of the carport for a media room, etc. There's still 3 existing parking stalls, so we're not constricting any parking by this approval. And basically, I think I could point out the part of the zoning ordinance that actually requests your approval. It's in the non-conforming building area. It's section 940503. And with that, there's not much to really say about it. I welcome your questions.
Very good, thank you. Is anybody in the audience who wishes to address us on this matter? Commissioners, questions, comments? Motions? Ms. Morantz?
If there's no further discussion,
Well, I
I'll
have a
move
quick question.
Oh.
Go ahead, John.
How did this come up? Was there a code violation or
No, he just wants to hold.
something of that nature?
There was a request by the contractor to do this alteration. The building department, when they see anything that's internal, but they see an issue with setbacks, they pop them right back over to planning, and consequently, that's how this happened. It wasn't a code violation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it's an existing carport.
Oh, yes, everything's existing. It's just an alteration of interior space. So
Oh,
we're
okay.
not.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I probably didn't explain that well.
Yeah, they're doing everything right. They came in, they're seeking the approval. This is an area of town that I'd be surprised if anybody could find it without us practically taking you out there. And it's going to fit the neighborhood, will not hurt anything. There's a lot of encroachments in that little private parking courtyard. It's really a delightful little area.
Go ahead, Ms. Morantz.
I was just going to say the same thing. It took me a little while to find it, but I didn't see that there was anything going on, and I don't have a problem with it, and with that, I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Morantz, second by Mrs. Caffrey. Mr. Caffrey, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Good, it's now 2 o'clock, so we'll go to our public hearing items. Number 2, case 5.0945, application by Lourish Properties for conditional use permit to construct 14,350 square foot drugstore and pharmacy with a 2-lane drive-through and an additional 21,850 square feet of commercial lease space at 101 North Sunrise Way. We've been advised that this is to be continued. Is that at the request of the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant asked for a 2-week continuance to your next meeting, or the 28th, May 28th. And also, we did receive a letter from the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians. They had some questions and some issues. We're going to have to sit down and talk to them about some of those issues, and we'll give you a full report at your next meeting. This is a public hearing item. We do recommend that you open the public hearing and then continue the public hearing to the 28th of May.
Very good, thank you. This is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this matter may come forward at this time.
My name is Arlene Smith, and I live on Andreas, which is more or less across from this planned building. My question was, they say they want an additional 15,400 square foot building for architectural approval at a later date. So I was just wondering how much of the land that is left there between what they propose and the other, I guess it's called a hotel that was just completed. How much land in between the two will be left?
Okay, ma'am, this is not normally a question and answer situation, but we are going to continue this matter, so there'll be an opportunity for the staff to respond privately, unless, Mr. Evans, you'd like to make some comment at this point?
Yeah, just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, the Extended Stay America is on a 5-acre parcel. There's another 5-acre parcel in the middle, and then this property is just under 5 acres. So that property that you see, this project will just take up half of the land.
I see. Well, what I'm hoping for is that our whole town won't be completely filled with buildings without any open space. So that's one of our unique parts of town, is that we do have open space. And I think that's very important for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Is anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak on this matter?
My name is George Chenault, and I also live on Andreas. And what I'm concerned about is having all of the big trucks going in and out of this new shopping center being parked on Andreas, and I would like to see the plans that show what type of barrier they're putting up to protect Andreas, where the garbage cans will be, and how they're situated, whether the entrances and exits to the drugstore go in and out off of Sunrise and Tockwitz rather than in and out of Andreas. Those were my questions, and I thought I would be able to see a drawing that would indicate.
Thank you, sir. At the continued hearing, there'll be a more complete report, but I do refer you back to staff in the interim. I'm sure they can let you see what the current application says as it's presently constituted after the meeting. I'm sure they're happy to cooperate with you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Not, I'll entertain a motion to continue this matter to the meeting of May 28th.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion by Ms. Moran, second by Ms. Grinch. Mr. Grinch. I'm teasing everybody here, no one's getting it. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Conrad.
Aye.
Ms. Morantz.
Aye.
Mr. Grinch.
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger.
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey.
Aye.
Mr. Platchko.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is case 5.0344, application by the City of Palm Springs for an amendment to Plan District 164A, General Plan Circulation Amendment and Mitigated Negative Declaration for Convention Center expansion located at 277 North Avenida Caballeros. I have a conflict on, I know we're going to have a motion to continue this, but I have a conflict because I represent a neighboring property owner. Do we have the 4 people that are designated to even appear?
Mr. Chairman, if we could have each commissioner state their conflicts, we're not going to have a quorum on this item. You have to state the conflicts first, then I'll explain the procedure and why we have to continue.
All right. Why don't we just go down? Mr. Caffrey?
My office is nearby.
Mr. Schoenberger?
I have a conflict, my office is nearby.
I have a conflict. I manage property next door.
Use the short straw.
Okay, and then Mr. Matthews has no conflict, so the 3 commissioners who can participate are Conrad, Morantz, and Matthews, and Mr. Grinch drew a straw to participate for quorum, so we don't have a quorum.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do not have a quorum, so we've sent out a courtesy notice to all property owners within 400 feet that we'll have a public hearing on this on April 30th. So you can't take any action, you can't open the hearing, you can't do anything. You don't have a quorum, so we'll go to next item, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item number 4, case 5.0952, application by Paul Shell for a conditional use permit for a retail bed and breakfast development located at 803 North Palm Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict.
Thank you, Mr. Grinch.
I have a business interest within 400 feet of said property.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also have a conflict. One of the lawyers in my office represents Mr. Shell.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberger.
And with that, seeing it, I think this is the last item on the agenda. Is there any thing that anything that you need me for after this? Anything coming up, Doug? Or
There's no action items. We do have some council actions and commission reports and updates. What I'll do is I'll give you a quick little update on a couple of meetings you may or may not want to put on your schedule as you leave the room.
You know, unless there's some objection, since there's nobody in the audience to actually speak on this, even though it's a public hearing item, perhaps we could just jump down on the agenda and let's finish items 10, 11, and 12, and then go back and handle number 4. Is that acceptable to everybody? All right. Okay, let's jump down then to item number 10, Commission Work Program.
Mr. Chairman, we being Larry and Lee Husfeldt are still coordinating meetings with neighborhood groups, with business interests. This week, this morning, actually, I met with the Board of Realtors, and Larry made a presentation on the general update program, so we were both there this morning to let the real estate community know what's going on. Yesterday, I made a presentation at Prudential Hampton's annual awards meeting, talked about the general plan and what's going on in town. I can tell you both groups are pretty excited about the activity in town. Both groups also acknowledge all the hard work the commission's been doing, so it was nice to hear some acknowledgement of all the hard work and all the activity in town. So we're still coordinating. We've got a couple of the slots filled relative to neighborhood groups, and we're asking the groups, you know, because some of the neighborhoods are rather extended, to kind of coordinate with some neighboring affiliations. So we're working on that. Section 14 subcommittee group did meet, had the workshop with the Agua Caliente Planning Commission. We had, I thought, a very good meeting relative to Section 14. We can't really do anything more than give a quick update because of the conflict issues. I don't remember which four participated in that one. But we're probably going to have that plan on the May 28th commission meeting for a public hearing. And on the basis of, we'll make recommendations, take those to council. If the council supports those recommendations, we'll give those to the tribe, and then they'll take a look at revising the document as opposed to doing a series of revisions as they go. So feedback I got from tribal staff was a very positive meeting. We thank you very much for your efforts there. And Mr. Chairman, that completes the work program update I have for you today.
Very good. Then item number 11, City Council Actions Update.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this evening, the City Council has got a couple of items on a special meeting. The architectural services for the Tramway Visitor Center, better known as the Tramway Gas Station, with O'Donnell and Escalante. So that's just the actual design part of the project. They've had a lot of input, and there have been some changes, and we'll keep the commission posted. And then also a construction management contract on that, since we have to be in the building in October, and also city representation. So, you know, that project's going to go. It's going to go very quickly, so we'll probably give the commission progress reports as often as we can, because when the plans are ready, we're going to be going from concept, design development to construction drawings and in the field very, very quickly on that, just as we did on the parking structure. The other items on the council's meeting tonight, first item is a rental inspection program. It's a proposal from an outside consulting firm to do a rental unit inspection program for a fee. They're going to make a presentation to council tonight on that. I don't have all the background, but it's something that's really from an outside party proposing a rental inspection for apartments and single-family homes that are for rent in town.
Well, what does that mean?
What does that mean? They would actually go in and do interior inspections as to the condition of the rental units, prepare a report, do follow-up inspections to make sure people comply. The city would be responsible for the hard enforcement and any legal action that would have to be taken, and there would be a fee per unit for the inspection. And you know, this is a proposal that an outside entity is proposing. It's not coming from staff.
I guess, has there been any problems in the past? I've never heard of any problems. You pay for what you get. If you want to rent a dump, you pay less. And if you rent a house,
Yeah. Well, and if, you know, and the way to look at that is if somebody is in a rental unit that's substandard housing, all they have to do is call us, and we'll come out and do an inspection. And if it's substandard, without a fee, and then if we have to take follow-up action, we will charge the property owner for the cost. So we have a program. It's not proactive. We don't go out and knock on the door and say, this is your biannual inspection. But I'll tell you, you know, when we do get calls from tenants, we have a pretty good success rate of improving the properties. We don't make them perfect, but we do improve them. So it's a new program. It's a new concept. It's done particularly in large metropolitan areas. This group comes from the East Coast, you know, and they do it primarily where you have a lot of very large, affordable, and low-income apartment complexes where you have to do this type of program, and they can't afford to have all the staff members out there knocking on doors. So a little bit different context. I've not seen their presentation, and building staff, planning staff, as well as the rest of the city will be there tonight to listen.
Ms. Conrad, do you have a comment?
Since we're asking Doug questions, back to the Tramway Visitor Center. I know I got to see the plan, and I know the wall is still there, and just I'm wondering if you can tell us how much of the wall is going to be left, because I'm worried that the city's going to leave more of the wall there than is going to be practical, and we're going to have to go back and take it back down again. So.
Well, I haven't looked at the most recent drawings because they're moving very quickly, but the last one, it was about a 3-foot wall. It was, you know, by some felt, you know, real good amenity for that type of land use, to create some shelter protection, but still allow the visibility. The Planning Commission's going to be looking at the plans, so you're going to get progress reports as we go.
And I guess, I mean, I just wanted to know, what is the rationale behind leaving, I mean, that's clearly not a security wall, and so then,
The architect likes it for site containment because it's going from an open, accessible gas station to a closed gallery to now a people place where there will be children, there will be occasionally pets, and the feeling, and the feeling is to have a perimeter establishes a boundary so that you don't have a situation where people wander, you know, off the site, and it also gives you a feel and a sense of place. And, you know, that one's going to be debated quite a bit, probably all the way through. We've got to come back to Planning Commission and HSPB on that, and eventually the council's going to have to make a decision. They're the client.
thank you.
Doug, just noting in today's Desert Sun, there was a notice that the council would be hearing a report on the I don't know what you call it, the ad hoc committee or the independent review committee about procedures improving customer relations, and that kind of ties into architectural review modifications. Is that going to take place?
Yes, the council study session, in addition to the item I already discussed, rental inspection, they're going to discuss and see the proposal and report from the Development Task Force. This will be the first time that it's been discussed outside of the task force meetings, and Commissioner Schoenberg participated. I've had a chance to review the report, but I don't think it would be appropriate for me to give the report since the task force is making the report tonight, and it's primarily a private sector group that had some city involvement at various steps through the process. So that presentation is tonight. As soon as that report's handed out to council, we'll make copies and get them out to the Planning Commission this week. So that you can take a look at those recommendations. And, you know, that is part of what's on the agenda tonight. The other part is I'm going to give the council an update on a revision to the architectural approval process. As the commission knows, 2 years ago, you were ready to have public hearings and recommend revisions to the ordinance. It became something that the city administration got involved in, the city attorney, some neighborhood involvement. We went back and I've done a series of different models of how it might work, and what we just passed out to you is my report to council for tonight. And it basically, the first document is just an overview. The second document is basically an outline of some revised procedures and how it would work. And then we've got background information, and one of the questions always is, well, the Planning Commission just keeps overriding design review and sending projects back. I looked at every item for the past 2 years and did 2 tables, and I think you'll see that the Commission doesn't refer much back to the Planning Commission, or excuse me, to design review. I think had I done this 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have seen a different makeup. The Commission's been worried about that for quite some time and just hasn't done that very often. And when you have done it, when I looked at why, it was probably a justified reason to send them back. So it doesn't happen very often, even though the public perception is that it's a ping pong match back and forth. But, you know, part of our business and your business is public perception. And sometimes, because nobody really looks at what happens day in, day out and tests it and evaluates it, the perception might be different than what actually occurs. The key changes to the design review that I outlined there parallel a lot of the work that the Planning Commission did a couple of years ago. One is a design review or architectural subcommittee that's appointed by the Planning Commission. It's primarily professionally based. with architects, landscape architects, professional designers. One community member is listed in there, and then an alternate in case people can't attend. What we've looked at is an HSPB member as an ex officio member that could come and comment about the historic nature of buildings. We looked at whether or not they should be a voting member, and since they're a separate board, they're not directly involved in the architectural approval process, we felt that having a board member participate would not be a good idea, just as one planning commissioner is recommended to come and visit with design review. Commissioner Morantz is currently on that duty, and but that commissioner really doesn't participate. They could be engaged in the dialogue, but for the most part, the commissioners are observers. So the HSPB member and planning commissioner would be there on an as-needed the HSPB would be an as-needed. One procedural change on larger projects that require environmental assessments and architectural approval. Currently, what we've been doing is we only notice in the newspaper that we're doing the environmental assessment. On those particular projects, after looking at case law, we really think we have to come back and do public hearings. So larger architectural approval items that require an environmental assessment, a rule of thumb is a project larger than 5 acres. I could go into all the exemptions in California environmental law, but the rule of thumb is a 5 acre or under project could probably be exempt, and that would not require a public hearing. If it's over 5 acres, it would, and there's a whole bunch of other factors that might trigger a public hearing. Good example of that, in theory, Lowe's could have been done where they could have filed the architectural approval application for the building without a subdivision map. They could have gone through without a public hearing. It's a pretty big project. And we just felt that after looking at case law, we needed to have hearings on those items. My estimate, it will probably affect plus or minus 6 projects a year. Not a whole lot. And I think most developers of those projects would understand why we're doing it. It's for their protection. The other issue that has come up that we're recommending some changes to has to do with hillside development. We currently provide a courtesy notice to the adjoining property owners that invites them down to look at the plans. It doesn't notify them of the meeting date for the Planning Commission, but if they ask, we'll keep them posted. We're going to have to be a bit more formal in Hillside. We're going to have to let people know when the meeting dates, and we'll have a 3-step potential process for hillside development. First, we're going to send a courtesy notice out the minute the application comes in. Come down and look at the plans. That's the most important one, in my opinion, because the project's still very preliminary. We're going to send the agenda to the abutting or adjacent property owners so they know when the Planning Commission's going to have the hearing. We're also recommending that if it's controversial, that the Planning Commission then set the project for a public hearing, and we have a formal public hearing on a hillside home. That comes out of case law and some things that are happening in the coastal areas. We didn't see a need to go right to a hearing because a lot of the hillside homes go through without any controversy. But occasionally we hit one that really gets people unhappy, and in the last year I've been in the city attorney's office a couple of times with neighbors trying to mediate disputes between builder and neighbor and existing homeowners, and we just felt we probably need to have that done in a public meeting and not after the permits have been issued. So that's a new procedure. That's a quick overview. I think the idea is to have it run very similar to what it does today, although it'll have a formal committee. They'll make recommendations and vote, and then the Planning Commission will, if it goes through the way we envision it, you'll have a consent calendar and architectural approval items that are non-controversial will be on your consent calendar, and a good portion of what you had on your agenda today would be consent calendar driven, in the future. So we'd move fairly quickly through that. The whole idea is to try to develop a little bit more consistency of attendance at design review and a little more consistency of their recommendations. And I guarantee you, once they're appointed by the commission and they report directly to you, they'll look at the plans more carefully. That completes a report on that one, Mr. Chairman. It's not on your agenda because the city manager wanted to put it up to the council first. And if the council's comfortable and gives us direction, we're going to come back and we'll put it on your next study session. And you can take a look at the report. But it's consistent with the direction that we were looking at. It's got a couple of new nuances.
Any
Mr. Chairman?
comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Schoenberg.
Just to follow up on this development task force that you referred to, and I didn't see the article in the paper this morning, but that task force, you may recall, was sponsored by the Palm Springs Economic Development Corporation, and consisted of a number of interested people, contractors and engineers and people. There were 2 council people that participated in most of the hearings, city manager, and I represented the Planning Commission on that task force, and there were a number of meetings, as I had mentioned before, and that task force finished its work about 3 weeks ago, and there have been a set of recommendations that have been out for now about 3 weeks that I had intended to circulate to the commission a couple of weeks ago, but the suggestion was that the report be given by the task force first to the city council so that they would have it first, and then we could circulate among the planning commission members a copy of the recommendations, which I think we can do next week. So that's sort of what happened there, and the planning commission will see those recommendations presumably next week, and maybe if anybody has comments, we can do it at either our next meeting or at a study session.
Thanks, John. We appreciate your, I know it's a lot of time, we appreciate your, representing the Planning Commission's perspective at those meetings. Any other comments? Ms. Morantz?
I just have a comment. I can see such a big change in design review. When I attended one quite a few years ago, it just seemed like everything was just almost rubber stamped. And now, I really have to say there's a lot of controversy at some of these, at the design review meetings at times, but I think those people that have volunteered their time, these architects and so forth, are really doing their job. I'm very impressed by it this time, although it was rather lengthy. I have to say that, and I didn't always agree with what they had to say, but they were very vocal, and it wasn't just rubber stamped along the way.
Yeah, I think that the length of their agendas is indicative of the large amount of development that we see coming into the city, and I think that's a real good sign. And I think they've been implementing a lot of what's in this recommendation de facto. In other words, we've been discussing these issues for a long time, and they've sort of been put in place. And I know Doug alluded to it, but there is this chart that he included in the report, and I just wanted to mention specifically for calendar year 2002, we had 131 architectural or items that went before architectural review, and there were only 3 restudies as requested by the Planning Commission, and they all resulted in approvals ultimately, and there were only 2 denials. So I think that that's a pretty big support of the building industry and support of the way the architectural review has dealt with them and improved their projects if things needed improving. Any other comments?
Just one
Yeah,
last
go on.
thing. Are we on Planning Commission comments now, or?
Yeah, that's, this was kind of follow-up to city council actions, but let's just move on to commission staff reports, requests, and go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment on that proposal by Marvin Roos that was in our package to have I guess kind of a day-long seminar on planning. I thought that that proposal was an excellent one, and to the extent we can support that, I think we should. I think it would be very helpful if all of us, or at least some of the planning commissioners, could attend that kind of a presentation. It would be helpful.
Yeah, it's coming up on May 2. They haven't really gotten a good flyer out that has all the locations. They're really trying to get some keynote speakers. If you saw that list, I mean, some people that I'd go into Los Angeles to hear talk. I'm going to be on one of the panels as far as local stuff that we're doing for, what the industry calls smart growth. It's really infill development. It's what do you do with the small remaining pieces of land. That's what Palm Springs does. I mean, that's the majority of your work is infill. And working with neighborhoods and making things fit when people may want nothing to happen in their neighborhood. So we'll get you a better flyer on that one as it comes out, but it should be a pretty good conference. It's intended to be all day, and we'll try to keep you posted.
Very good, thank you. Any other reports, requests from the commission? Staff, anything further?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, have one. I think we gave it to you in your packet. It's a little announcement from the city manager that next Tuesday, April 29th at 8:30 at the Hyatt Regency Suites downtown, there's going to be a meeting amongst downtown and uptown merchants and potentially property owners to talk about signs, postcard racks, outdoor displays. We've got a lot of new merchants in our community that have questions about our codes and ordinances. I think there's a little bit of an educational process that's going to occur, and also a little bit of venting about, why do you do this? I would suggest that if one or more planning commissioners could attend, it would be advantageous, because virtually any recommendation that comes out of this relative to codes is coming back through the Planning Commission, whether it be signs, postcard racks, outdoor display, things of that nature. We'll touch base with the commission. So if a commissioner could attend that, again, 8:30 Tuesday, April 29th.
We have a volunteer, Ms. Conrad?
I was going to volunteer Mr. Caffrey. He's perfect for that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Is
I'm
that,
gonna get a cup of coffee and I'm a volunteer.
that's Tuesday, April 29th. Can you represent us?
I didn't hear it, sorry.
Good, that's a yes. You talk to Doug after the meeting, he'll give you all the details. Anything further then?
I have a couple more.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
The planning seminar, is that what you're talking about?
No.
Postcard racks.
It's at the Hyatt. They're gonna serve dinner and wine and everything, I'm sure.
Outdoor displays on Palm Canyon.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have, I think the last thing I have is a present, and I know you love reading assignments. We have the airport documents for the revised airport master plan, the environmental document that goes with that, and also a copy of Larry's newest publication called General Plan News. A little newsletter that we're going to put out, every so often, let people know what we're doing with the general plan. So as the two commissioners that get excused here momentarily leave, you have your assignments waiting you, and we're going to talk to you on May 7th with regards to the airport master plan. Mr. Chairman, that completes my updates at this time.
All right. With that, then, we'll excuse Mr. Schoenberger, Mr. Grinch. Thank you for staying through, and we'll go back to public hearing item number 4, which has already been read into the record, but just to repeat, it's case number 5.0952.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application by Paul Shell for a mixed 9-unit bed and breakfast and retail development at 803 North Palm Canyon. You may know where this is. These are the site photos here. It's basically directly across the street from, where the Pacific Building is? Right there. It's the lot basically directly northwest of that. So this is North Palm Canyon here, and this is Tamarisk is over here, but this here is sort of an extension, but it's a shared access easement. Basically, the lot itself is about 100 feet wide and about 241 feet deep. There's an existing parking lot back here. Here is a multifamily project under construction. It was recently approved last year. This is a furniture store here. This is a restaurant, and across the street you have various retail, commercial. So really, the area of the new development does not include that existing parking lot back there. So the buildable area has been reduced, somewhat for the scope of this project. The project itself, as I mentioned, has 2 retail units on the ground level. You can see it on the elevations here as well. They total about 1,500 square feet, so divided up probably about 750 square feet each. There's 9 units of bed and breakfast. This unit is a manager's unit here, so there's really 8 rentable units and 1 fully accessible manager's unit. It's about 1,500 square feet. The other units are all 2 stories. It shows up here in really the building cross sections, and they range in size from about 500 to about 780 square feet. This is a planned development district, and the reason for that is that a development of this type in a C1 zone would need to apply R3 property development standards. Obviously, the lot itself is substandard. If they applied or if they built right to code, the project really would be impossible to develop. So really there's flexibility in those standards to apply, 0 lot line on the side, so really to apply C1 property development standards. So they've asked for relief on the side setback and also on the front, which calls for at least 5 feet from the property line. Here, they've proposed the glazing 4 feet from the property line, and then the ends are about 8 feet. So you kind of have a little bit of an average there of maybe somewhere about 5 to 6 feet. And staff certainly feels that that's reasonable. The other area requested for modification was also in terms of open space, just strictly. It's a 45% requirement in the R3. They've got 43% on where their property is, but they did not include this area here that they'd obtained an easement for landscape purposes from this property owner here. And certainly with the inclusion of that, they probably do meet or exceed that 45% open space requirement. There is also a request for increase in building height. The zone would allow 24 feet. They're asking for 24 and a half feet. And also for this architectural feature here, in the pre-application phase when this was viewed by design review and also by the planning commission, there was some question as to possibly make the top of this entry tower lighter, so they've come back with a aluminum or steel design. It was a much heavier material in the beginning, and the applicant really sees that as sort of the hallmark of their project, if you will. It sort of just mimics the Pacific building across the street in terms of height and a sort of neighborhood landmark. Yeah, floor plans are, let me see. Oh, gosh. I actually don't have them posted at the moment. This here is a site plan. I'll get the floor plan. In terms of wall height, they are also requesting 6 feet is the maximum in the city. It would be about 7.5 to 10 feet on the south side. And then on the north side, which basically faces directly on the furniture store, it ranges up to about 11 feet there. This is certainly reasonable. The development is intended to be a secluded type of hideaway, so they want to keep that courtyard as private as possible for noise and privacy purposes. When this project went to design review, it was well received. They had 2 comments. They wanted additional detail on these canopies at the front, how they're being held up, the materials and things like that. So this is a PD, and that will come back in final development plans. Additionally, there was questions about the materials here, especially about the CMU block that was proposed. Design review wanted it to be possibly sandblasted or treated in some respect. So, the applicant had concerns about cost, so there's a condition, alternatively, they may propose some other treatment to that block instead of just standard precision block. The applicant, unfortunately, was unable to attend today's meeting, but we included 2 letters from them in your packet where they basically concurred with the conditions of approval. And that concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Jane,
I'll go get them.
I just wanted to ask you one question. We did get something in our packets. Do you have any comments? There's a couple of items that I had a concern about. One of them was the planter. They're talking about the parking and the planter.
Mm-hmm. We actually modified that. On the site plan here, they're showing a wall, However, because of the way our parking code reads, you need to be 5 feet from a wall face. That's really not going to be feasible for them to do that because of the tight, the site is quite tight, and also for minimum driveway widths and a minimum, depth of a parking space. So they've deleted that wall, and actually, so then you have a situation where you have nose-to-nose parking spaces. Our code reads that a nose-to-nose parking space should be 19 feet deep. We allowed them then, as a compromise, to have a 4-foot wide planter, so you split that 4-foot difference and have a 17-foot deep space.
Thank you.
And I have a question as well. The reason I'd like to see the floor plans is I'm curious as to where the reception area, dining room, front desk, whatever that may be. When you say bed and breakfast, what conjures up in my mind is everybody eats in one location, meets in one location. So I'm curious where that's at. And didn't this come to us originally as a townhouse development?
At one point, they had taken a look at it as possibly, small condominium units.
Right.
When they actually got into the project design and the detail, there's just not enough room to get everything you need in to a condominium. So they really took a look at it as a little bit different project, a small lodging facility with a manager's or owner's unit.
And what defines a bed and breakfast versus a motel?
There's no difference.
No.
Bed and breakfast is really, in the industry, I'm sure we'll get the official definition of it in a moment. But from the city's perspective, it's a hotel room. It's rentable room, no kitchens. That's a hotel room for the city.
I'd like to refer to it as such then, as far as I'm concerned, if it's not a bed and breakfast.
I would assume that with some bed and breakfasts, that possibly the manager's area might include some place for people to
Right.
congregate.
Right.
Commissioners, just keep in mind, this is a public hearing, so after we ask questions, we will open the public hearing.
Here's a floor plan here. This unit here functions as the common area recreation area, the large open space. All the other units are around here. This is the manager's unit. They intended really the main entrance to be from the rear. People would drive in and then probably check in from here. The entrance desk, would be probably around the front where the manager's unit is. The Palm Canyon is really, they intended that to be sort of a secondary, almost just really a secondary entrance, but we do require them to still be ADA compliant in that respect. But the main entrance is intended to be through the rear after they park their car and enter the development from that area.
Okay, well, I don't see anything labeled as an office.
No.
I mean, everything's kind of probably or could be.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what we're looking at, do we?
No, I'm not really certain where the office would be located. I can only imagine that it is in the manager's unit.
Gene, the manager's unit is a 2-story unit?
It is a 2-story unit as well, yes.
They look like they're all 2-story units, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Any additional questions before we open the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This, is coming to you as a planned development district. You're going to see the, detailed construction plans, and we can certainly have the owner, give us the management program at that time. They've been working really hard to really make this site work, and, they're in the bed and breakfast business in the Pacific Northwest, and had they been here, they could probably give you a better answer than we just did. But we're really excited about the project, and when you talk about smart growth, infill, trying to make the best use of areas, we're pretty excited about this particular project.
Before us today, and then before us today is really the land use and the appropriateness of this
The land
choice.
use, the setbacks, the building configuration. Operationally, if you'd like us to give you the full program, we can report back to you at the final development plan stage.
Okay, this is a matter for public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the commission, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Back for additional comments and questions. Mr. Caffrey.
Well, originally, I was very excited about this project too, as a condominium or townhome type development. I'm not sure how I feel if it's a hotel in that location. The design is fabulous. I like the design. I just need more information now. Bed and breakfast, I think I would be okay with. Yeah,
Ms.
true bed
Conrad?
and breakfast.
Well, I have a few concerns that I appreciate that the pool is south-facing, but it worries me that none of the units have any view. And this piece of property has a really nice view, and that's a concern. And I'm sure it's hard to fit this many units on it. I'm a little concerned about the heights snugging so close up to Palm Canyon. Although I understand it's very close to what they would be allowed by right of zone, so maybe I'll have to not worry about that. I like the mixed-use part of it. I agree with you, we need a little more information, and there might be some way for them to, well, I don't know. You've seen all of the multiple iterations, and we haven't. But it seems like at least the pool will have sun. But the units won't, none of the units will have a view except for the two back top parts, and it seems like one of those is, or the lower part of that's going to function as the lobby.
It's a real tough site. If you're trying to get this number of units, you know, you have to orient them in the direction they are, and that's going to make it difficult to get that west view of the mountain. I think that, you know, the experience, I mean, what they're trying to do is create a real intimate experience around the courtyard and the pool area. Originally, they wanted 3 feet of grade difference in there, and they wanted to, you know, bring in fill, so when you came in, you went up, you came back down, and had a whole lot of different experiences in that fairly tight, intimate space. I'm not sure it's really easy to, on a rectangular site like this, to get the views that I think everybody would encourage them to think about. You can, you know, it's up to the commission. You can continue it if you need more information from a design standpoint. I haven't worked on a project in a long time that was received as positively as this one. So.
Well, and then that big block wall, what is immediately to the north? Is there a parking area for the furniture store? Or you enter the furniture store from its south wall, it's just going to be looking at 17 feet of block wall, right?
That's correct. There is no parking area. It would just be,
It's a zero
basically
lot line condition like that?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So, well, I mean, I can imagine some other scenarios, because I don't know how intimate your courtyard experience is going to be with the parking for the restaurant and Palm Canyon right there. And they're just concerns. I mean, they're in business, but that's going to be a tough sell, I think.
Is there another lot between the two buildings? Is that a lot, or is that
To the
parcel,
north?
one parcel with the that's it?
You're talking about to the north.
Yes, to the north.
Is that flat wall, the zero lot line, is that abutting a structure, or is that facing open space?
Or a possible structure is my question. I mean,
There's a wall all the way to here, and then there's steps like that or something?
It faces, right, it's,
Yeah, Jing will point that out to you.
in other words, there's not an undeveloped piece of property between the two.
Correct. There's another existing building.
right. This is the building here, and where they're proposing their wall, there would be space. It's not like wall to wall. It's not a wall to wall condition. And this is abutting properties. There's not an additional piece of land in between.
Okay, so nothing could be built there in between the
No,
buildings?
no.
And how much space is that?
That is 42 feet.
That's a lot of space. You're going to see that wall. And what is it now, parking?
Right now, it's just empty
It's an empty
landscape
lot.
space, right?
Yeah, so that worries me more than.
Doug, I didn't hear your comment away from the microphone. What did you say the space is?
Well, you know, that's an adjoining parcel, separate parcel of land, and it's going to create, you know, a enclosed area, you know, on the south side, as opposed to an area that's currently open. It's not uncommon in our downtown to have property line wall conditions the same height as this. It's pretty common. not unusual in our downtown.
Right, but what about, like, any discussion about a landscape easement or something that could break that massive wall up as you're driving down Palm Canyon so it doesn't just smack you in the face as you drive by? I have the same concern, yeah.
If it were right up against the building, I wouldn't have any
Mhm.
problem. But now it's 42 feet away and it's 17 feet high. I don't know.
Of course, the neighboring property owner can landscape his property as well, so that he'll, you know.
Well, he might be agreeable to some type of a landscape easement where they would maintain it.
Well, let's play with scenarios. You know, if you take a look at the upper right-hand elevation, if I'm correct, that's the
Yeah,
north
that's the north.
elevation.
Yeah.
So as you come down Palm Canyon, you're gonna see the commercial storefront in the front of the building. You're gonna have a two-story element that, I don't know the height of that, but it's not particularly deep, and then it's gonna break back down. And then it'll pop back up, so you've got some pretty good movement. It's a contemporary building design, you know, so you're gonna get that play. You know, without a doubt, it'd be wonderful to go in and tell the neighboring property owner, you know, let's get an easement, let's do landscape. I think you put a developer at the mercy of the neighbor, even though they might have a business relationship on this property. I'm not aware of another transaction. If you take a look at, you know, some of the buildings in downtown, if you take a look at the Henry Frank Arcade, as it abuts the Chop House building.
Well, I'm not saying make it a condition of approval. What I'm saying is that the question should be asked. If we have an opportunity to put some landscape in there, then we should put some landscape in there. And if the adjoining property owner doesn't want to do it, then that question's been asked, and it's
Right.
done.
I don't know, I generally feel that that area is beyond the scope of this particular parcel, and the two property owners can do what they want. They can get together at any time to improve that, and 42 feet is wide enough to put a building in there. I mean, if they could come out and figure out how you access parking and all the rest of it, but it's a dead space, or that the existing building's gonna have to be torn down if they figure it's a better, I mean, they've got 42 wide strip of land that they're not developing, and it's up to them to figure out how they want to develop it or not develop it.
Well,
These people are, I mean, in our downtown area, the zero lot line with commercial frontage, I mean, that's just the way it's done.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, I just,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we just let those blank wall elevations go by without asking that.
I mean, the other alternative is to move the buildings over 2 feet and put a 2-foot landscape strip in there. Or
Well,
3 foot, or
and
whatever
then-
it takes to
and-
get some trees in there, but.
And, yeah, and then maybe you end up with
But, no,
a
I don't
parcel
wanna
that's
redesign-
totally unusable.
I don't want to
Neither
override
do
our
I.
design review, but
Yeah, no,
I'm surprised that wasn't addressed as.
Well, if you look at the property owner to the north, who we're concerned with, they have a solid wall that doesn't have the movement that Doug's described with the up and down. It's just a solid rectangle block going all the way back. So, in a sense, they've sort of set the precedent for this property owner. You know, what are they gonna deal with? If we didn't have a zero lot line and they stuck windows in this building, they'd be looking at a block wall, which they wouldn't wanna do either.
Although it kind of
So-
served as a courtyard when K-Des was there. It was kind of a courtyard area, and the building was both.
Well, sure, it was a
had side
courtyard
entrance.
because you had undeveloped property, it just, you know.
No, when they were both developed.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
when it was all built.
Alright.
It was a little bit, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know that it's worth arguing about, but I certainly think it.
Are we arguing? I didn't think so.
No, I think these are good points. I generally think that this is a good project, and the deficiencies with lack of view, I think that they're just restricted as to what they have to work with, and that'll affect the marketplace. And, you know, if it means they get $100 less a night, then that's what they'll get, because they can't provide some better amenity. But this developer seems to think that it will be profitable and that he'll get people that'll enjoy what they have to offer. So I feel more comfortable with it.
Are they building it in a manner that they could convert it to condos? In other words, separate meters and things like that?
No, they will not have kitchens.
Okay.
And you know, if they want to look at the mountains, they can sit poolside and still be able to look up at the mountains, so if they can't see them from their room, they can.
There's a building in the way.
Well, they
It seems the way
might
that it
be able
works to
see a
me
little bit.
is that that's kind of an outdoor living area. And then if that's the case, then you have some sort of community there. And if you have some sort of community, that means that it needs to operate more like a bed and breakfast and not a hotel, because you don't get much community in a hotel. So I'm just hoping that that's the direction that it really is going and not a hotel. Some community dining room, something of that nature that causes the people to interact and enjoy the outdoor experience and not be stuck in their rooms with no view.
I know we saw this several times, or at least once that I recall in study session. I think I happened to catch it once in design review quite a number of months ago. So I know it's been dealt with at design review more than once. But, with that, does anybody like to make a motion?
I'll
Ms.
make a
Morantz?
motion. I'll move approval of case number 5.0952, plan development 284 to construct a 9-unit bed and breakfast and 1,542 square feet of retail space located at 803 North Palm Canyon Drive.
Is there a second?
And we're going to see final development plans?
And the retail space, is there any restrictions on what can go in there?
It is not intended for any food uses because obviously you've got the second living unit above it. So it's intended, when we spoken to the applicant, for really art gallery type use, very clean. No food uses are proposed.
Okay, and it just says no food uses, like no liquor stores, no?
Well, you know,
Ask her,
we
what
don't
does it
have that
say?
condition written, but if you'd
Oh.
like to add it, that's.
Liquor store would require conditional use permit.
I'm just saying, so it says no food uses is what the language that you're proposing.
I'll second the motion.
A motion by Ms. Moran, second by Mr. Caffrey. Any further discussion?
Only when we see the final development plans.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to take a vote on this, and if it does pass, I think that the record should reflect the concerns of the commissioners, and when it does come back to us, they'll have an opportunity to address those issues, and if there is any massaging of the actual architecture or meeting spaces or something like that, they can take that into consideration.
It would be nice if we get a tree or two in front of that.
A tree.
A tree or two would be nice.
I'm not putting that in my motion.
Roll call vote, please, Michelle?
Ms. Conrad?
Aye.
Ms. Moretz?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay. Anything further? All right, meeting adjourned, thank you.